Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast. This is Travis McClure, my co-host, Preston Guyton. Preston just told me I was old before I hit record. Preston, how you doing today?
We're already being recorded.
Yeah, that's fine.
For TikTok. TikTok.
So Preston, you getting ready for a trip to a Cheplack Mastermind event?
Yes.
The Saturday, Sunday? What's the event? Friday, Saturday?
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay.
Leaving tomorrow. It is a cool 9 degrees below zero, I think, in Toronto.
I saw that. The expected low was -6 or something.
Yeah, something fun.
That's fair. That was Fahrenheit, not Celsius, right?
Mm-hmm. I will be running the stairs. So if you need to find me, actually, I think I'm going to record myself running the stairs.
Yeah.
And send it to you.
Yeah. I don't know. I would probably I'd make it an indoor workout day for sure. Either treadmill or lift some weights.
Yeah, I'm going to do the stairs.
Yeah.
I hate the treadmill.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to talk about out there in Toronto? Well, first off, let me ask you this before we get to that. I'm just curious. I've never flown to Canada from Myrtle Beach. So what's the flight pattern? Like it's not a direct flight, right?
No. So it's Charlotte to Toronto. It's a pretty easy flight though.
Yeah.
It's, there's some kind of document I think I have to fill out before I go, but, it's Charlotte and then Charlotte to Toronto. Like I leave here at 7 a.m. I'm there at like 11:30.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And they're what? One time zone back?
I don't know if it's the time zone back, maybe, but it's, I think it's an hour, obviously an hour to Charlotte. And then I want to say it's only like an hour and a half or 2 hours to Toronto.
Have you ever been to Toronto?
I have not. I've never been to Canada.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a cool experience for you. What are you planning to talk about up there?
It's actually going to be a lot easier. Like, with me and Tahoe, I think I picked the hardest thing in the world to talk about. It's because it was the first time I got up on one of Cheplack stages. And I was like, I want to talk about the hardest thing. So next time it's a lot easier. So I'm actually talking about conversion and things that we're doing focused on Palms Realty, talking about the Agent Excellence Program,
Mm-hmm.
so in recruiting. So the things that we do to continue to grow and to hit our goal. Like the first slide is talking about the goals that we have set forth in 2023.
Okay.
And it's kind of a walkthrough on, the things we do to ensure we hit those goals.
Yeah. So when I was reading about the meeting, and I'm not going, it's more of a mastermind.
Do you want to go?
Nah, I got a lot going on here, man. I do. I love to learn and develop. I love to travel to new places. I've never been to Toronto either. I've been to Canada, but not Toronto. But man, my hands have just been full between the ISA team
And
moving my family, and I'm in the middle of prepping for a marathon
and planning for a hike.
And Preston and I are planning a Appalachian Trail hike, which I've upped the ante because I've now bought a map and put it on Preston's desk. So
how many miles are we doing?
I think we're planning a 2.5 day. And I think the loop, what do we say it is? Like a 28-ish miles.
I don't think I've ever pooped in the woods.
Well, having been Army and you do what are called FTX, field training exercises, I have.
Yeah.
So
I think I have when I was a kid, maybe.
It's
been a while.
You bring a shovel.
Shovel? Really?
Yeah. But the Appalachian Trail actually is it has a lot of traffic on it.
Yeah. And
from what I understand, there's actually a lot of places to get on and off and access to different facilities and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have not committed to a date, but I think both of us have committed to that hike. I totally went off topic, but yeah, just a lot going on. So Toronto, you're going to get more into the meat and potatoes of masterminding, what's gone well, what challenges are we having. So I guess what you said, like in Tahoe, you did, I'm going to call it like a keynote where you opened up and talked a lot about yourself personally in a very vulnerable way. I thought it was very captivating. Not just saying that as a friend, but I'm just saying like it was, I learned things about you I didn't know, and I think, like you said, that was a super hard presentation to give, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm talking about this as like lead gen, so I could get up there and nerd out for probably bore a lot of people for 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
a lot of it's going to be like, the things that I've learned from John and followed so many different teams, a big emphasis on everything he talks about is around recruiting and how, the people move the money. So for me, it's more how we kind of took everything I've learned from him and seen other teams do, but then how can we add fuel to that fire? And for me, it's lead gen. Like, lead gen is able to, if you look at it, and whether you want to call it lead gen, whether you want to call it creating opportunities, um, without the opportunities, a lot of the things we do don't exist. Like, you can't have ponds if you don't have leads. You can't have training if you don't have leads. You can't have role playing if you don't have. I mean, you could have role playing with one another, but you can't put people in real live situations where they're actually, calling leads and doing all the things. So if you think about it, there's a lot of things that we do that would not happen without the incoming leads.
I can't agree more. I mean, I definitely, I'm not going to sit here and say there's no value in role playing. Bill Pipes would probably karate chop me if I said that. There's value in role
Yeah,
playing,
100%.
but you cannot simulate live action, get on a phone with somebody, having to deal with your nerves a little bit, having to deal with the awkward pauses and silences of a real prospecting conversation. It's like, I always say it's like doing push-ups. You can't get good at doing push-ups by watching somebody do push-ups. Right. You have to actually do the push-ups and you got to make the calls. And the more calls you make, the better you get.
Well, you think about it too, role playing, somebody's not going to be, you're going to be in situations where people are going to tell you to F off, hang up on you and everything else.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you're not going to have somebody role playing partner with you that is going to be willing to do those things. Right. I mean, very rarely you won't find somebody in training that's doing those. I mean, they'll be difficult, but they won't do the things that a lot of people that don't know you on the phone are willing to do because they don't know you. You could call people in a very, very bad time. So, with that, so that's really what I'm going to go into a lot. And then, some of the things on conversion as well, because, one of the problems I see with a lot of teams are, I want leads, I want leads. But in doing that, you could create a lead problem. You know what I mean? Like if you're generating leads and, hundreds of leads a month or whatever it is, and you have no systems around conversion and everything else
Or
follow up. Yeah. And you know what I tell people, you almost have to take a backwards approach. You got to build all those systems first, and luckily with Palms, I was already generating leads, when we started Palms. So we had those systems already a lot of those systems already in place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. We just had a sales meeting this morning when we were talking about lead generation with our agents in different ways. We were talking about open house and all that kind of stuff. But in the market we're in right now, like that percentage of people who you're going to make first contact with and they're going to do something right now is very low.
Yeah.
That's across the country. The money to be made right now is the agents that do a really good job in follow up. That's where all the money is made right now, is your ability to follow up. Past client follow up, people you met at the open house that weren't ready just then, the lead you got 60 days ago, that all of that, those are the agents that are highly successful right now, the ones that have that consistent follow up piece in their business.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I talk about too, is always squeezing the lemon. You know what I mean? Like when you look at a database, squeeze as much as you can out of it. And that's a lot of what we do. Like even with the, what we do on the lead gen side, sending out the fellow, we have fellow set up, and it's sending out those newsletters where that newsletter consistently goes out once a week and the resend goes out 48 hours later. And we get a lot of traffic back to the site from that. We get a lot of engagement from the call to actions that are built in that newsletter.
Yep.
And those are the things you have to do. Like you have to even be, more consistent than you had to be 12 months ago, 24 months ago. And it's really just focusing on get as much as you can out of your database and continue to grow. I mean, the person with the database right now with a good database is winning.
Yeah.
Because they have those, they have those people already signed in. At some point, with us, they're in our database because they signed up on our website at some point, and we continue to communicate with them.
And I couldn't agree more. I manage the ISA team right now. My job, I always say I'm the Swiss Army knife of the company, right? I kind of go where there's a need. I love that aspect, the variety of it. But right now I'm working closely with our ISA team. And where I think we won in January, Preston, it was where your systems re-engaged the database. It wasn't new. We're always going to call the new leads that come in. That's easy. Like that's no brainer. But it's the re-engagement piece through things like Fellow. And if you don't know what that is, it's a system that gets people to click a link and find out how much their home is. Well, it lets us know, right? So as an ISA team, we then re-engage and get in that conversation. That created a lot of lead handoffs for our agents last month. And
Yeah.
other things like you're saying from the newsletter that create behavioral triggers in our
Mhm.
database. The re-engagement piece is where we won last month, I think, as an ISA team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's, I just got a dashboard email from fellow like previous month, and from that, just from those, we mainly focus on that call to action in the newsletter. We don't do a whole lot, and the website side, we don't really push people to that home valuation, but we more so use it as like a rebranding and remarketing. But last month, I think it said the report we had 96 people that filled out their home value. So they put in their home address. So you already have their name, phone number, and email address. And then they're going in and putting in their mailing address to their primary residence a lot of times. So 96 of those, 16 of them asked for actually a um, cash offer. And then of the 96, another 6 actually asked for a call or a CMA
Yep.
request. And then they're, like you said, the ones you're calling those and they're answering 75-80% of the time.
Super high call rate. Yep.
Yeah. And
Pickup rate, I should say.
yeah, and they're signing up. They're on our site, and all of a sudden we have their mailing address. So if you look at a lead, a quality of a lead, when you have name, phone number, email address, then you have their actual mailing address of the property they own, the quality of that lead is that much higher.
And most of them are people that are already registered in the database, and the funny thing for us, we're a transplant market, right? So a big portion of our database is people that live in Pennsylvania, New York, somewhere not here. So like 90-ish% of those home value requests aren't even in our market.
Yeah,
So,
I would say it's about 80 or 90% for sure.
so we're using that as a team to say, hey, is that an indication that they're now ready to buy in our market?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's how they landed there, right? So
Yeah.
they're not, when they send that home value request in, is because they signed up on our website at some point.
Yeah.
There's very rare that we get many that are not in our database yet. And people are like, well, why, how does that make sense? Well, the more you stay in front of them, the more likely they're actually going to transact with you. So if you start getting more information, you get more details, you get their home address, you get, one, I remember one lead like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they filled out like home valuations for like 4 different properties.
Mhm.
So, it was their primary, they had a second home, they had another second home, and then they were looking to buy in our market. So you look at that, potential client is a good one, because obviously they're probably an investor or looking for, another second home.
Yeah, and I say all that like fellow might not be something you want to look into, but I think to go back to something you said, it's one thing to bring in all these new leads, right? Like, yes, do you have to consistently invest and find lead generation for your company, your business, whatever, but you also have to find ways to re-engage what's already come in, to consistently, like you said, squeezing juice from the lemon.
Yeah,
The stuff you already have.
squeeze
Yeah,
the lemon.
yeah,
Yes, the more you squeeze it, usually the more it comes out. And that's what my focus is looking at ways we could do that. And
Mhm.
like the newsletter we send out, a lot of people are like, what do you send out? How do you do that every week? It just, come up with content. We pull a majority of the content that goes in the newsletter out of our blogs, and we're doing a lot of national blogs now where we're
Yeah.
talking about market reports and interest rates and different things. And that's what we do. But like if you're a localized company, I mean, talk about your neighborhoods, talk
Yeah.
about the best, talk about the dog parks, talk about neighborhoods that you like, you know, um, things like that. I mean, those are the more localized, the more engagement you get. And just, make it consistent, but also know that there are certain things in a newsletter, like keep it under 250 words. Make sure you have call to actions to something where actually somebody will take action and fill out, whether it's a home valuation or,
Mhm.
a lender or whatever. And it also gives you ways to, when you look at MSAs, like with lenders, insurance partners or whatever, it gives you another way to advertise them as well.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think over the last, I think you and I've talked about a lot, the last 10 to 14 days, we've seen a lot of positive, I think, in our local market. You said you thought the same nationally. We've seen an increase in our ISA contacted people ready to do something. I
Yep.
think people are starting to come off the fence, the ones that are waiting for the lower interest rates. We've seen an increase in loan applications nationally.
Yep.
And website traffic has increased.
Yeah.
So what does all that mean, Preston?
Well, I mean, website traffic is historically December is always the worst month. But
Right.
if you follow it like in real estate, but January is always better. But people are starting there's 30% less agents in our market, right? So even if the amount of leads that are coming in are, the same as November, but they're more,
Mhm.
but you have 30% less agents now. So you have, and maybe you have 40 or 50% less contracts. But what's happening is we're having more conversations because a lot of those agents who were in business are no longer in business.
Right.
So, I think going into the spring, I think we're going to see a positive market. I mean, we can never, everybody's so quick to compare it to the best year ever,
Yeah.
2021, and even 2022 was a really good year.
Yeah. It was.
If you blend it all together and look at the total numbers, but like if you look at 2022, it was the amount of commission that was paid was significantly higher than 2018 and 19.
Yeah. We had increase in transactions, and then you had in this
Price.
market, price like shot to the
Yeah, I
roof
mean
too.
that's so many different markets. The pricing doesn't see it's come down, and more so in our market in condos. I think condos got a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen the big price drops in housing. So, and even if it reverts back to, if you look at it over 20 years and historically, it's not going to fall. Maybe it'll fall to 2020 levels, but you're not talking 40% drop or 30% drop or anything like that. I think people are realizing that too. Like a lot of, I'm waiting for the crash, and all of a sudden the crash hasn't happened, and rates of, now you could get rates into the fives. There's programs out there, 3-2-1 buy down and all these different things that, people are offering and builders are offering where I've even seen some in the fours.
Yeah. And that objection, I was meeting with my team yesterday, and I was, talking to them about challenges, things like that. The objection of we're waiting for better interest rates, it hasn't gone away completely, but it's
Yeah.
much less than we were hearing it 60 days ago.
It's not in the news as much.
Right. Well, exactly.
So it's, it's like everybody pays so much attention to the news and what's going on, and that a lot of times that's where their mind goes. Whatever the news is saying is and does it make sense? I mean, at the end of the day, you got to look at what makes sense, right? Like whether it's a 7% interest rate or 5% or 4%, you just got to look at what you can afford.
Right.
So you could afford something different at 7%, you could afford something different at 3 or 4%, but as long as you're looking at what you could afford to buy, I mean, that's, no matter what the interest rate is, I mean, you could buy it anytime.
Yeah. What do you think right now? I think we've talked about a lot of things that have worked and gone well. Turn this to a little mastermind podcast, Preston. What challenges you think right now for broker owners as they navigate into this from February, we're at February 1st, into our spring market? What do you think the challenges that need to have to overcome to be successful are? We did not script this podcast. I'm just rifling the question.
For sure. I think a lot of it has probably to do around the individual agents within your office, their mindset. I think that's
a good
probably, I would say that's probably the biggest challenge because they're, some of them a lot of them are struggling. Like a lot of them are struggling. And a lot of them have never struggled. You think about it, like a majority of I'd say a big percentage of the agents that are in the business probably joined in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, if you look at the cycle of the last 10 years, say 2012, it's constantly gone up.
Mm-hmm.
There's not been there was like a little blip in like 2015 or whatever, but that lasted a couple months. But outside of that, there's really not been a time so throughout their whole career, there's always been a continuation of sales and everything else. So I think it's a lot of that is mindset, like
absolutely,
sitting down and just being available and talking through and understanding that a lot of the agents in the office are, and a lot of them aren't equipped. They're not equipped because there wasn't the training, there wasn't the persistence to prospect and do all of these things. So a lot of them are having to learn just like they're a new agent.
I think also the other aspect of that's really important, and I think we've done a good job at it because we have a weekly sales meeting, is to talk about what's going on, right? Because a lot of times what will happen with agents, their business will slow down, they get scared, and then what's the human reaction to fear?
Freeze.
It's fight, flight, or freeze, right? Freeze is they stop doing anything. Well, it's not worth prospecting. I'm not going to call anybody because nothing's happened, right? They freeze. Flight is they go somewhere else. And then there's the fight response, not physically fight, but like okay, where do we need to dig in and do something different with our business to keep momentum going? Maybe it's a different lead source. Maybe it's what's working for the agents over here. Like that's why mastermind sessions and things like that with your team are so important in hard times, right? You got, because they're going to do one of those three things. They're going to fight, flight, or freeze,
Yep.
right?
And a majority freeze.
Yeah, majority freeze and they stop doing anything. And that's not good for anybody,
No.
right? So I think you just got to continually talk about what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest challenge. I think for broker owners, and just, just keeping them happy. I mean, whether it's lead gen or whatever, but it's, I mean, broker owners have challenges right now for sure. And, luckily for us, we focused in an area where, it's good to be good in lead gen and conversion right now, because it's something that you have to really have in your tool belt, and it has to be priority for us. It's priority number one, to ensure that the agents we bring on have the opportunities to be successful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let me ask you the question we ask our agents. We did a little process called Go to the Board last week, where agents tell us their goals, tell us what those goals will mean to them, right? How it impacts them personally. But and then the third thing is, what's the action you're going to commit to make that happen? What I call it, the tiny hinge that's going to swing the big door, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things you might do, but what's the most important thing for you over the next 90 days in our businesses? What would you say is the tiny hinge?
I mean, really just to continue what I've been doing, like with, we when I look at Easy Home Search and that's a lot of that helps a lot of everything I do. And priority number one for me is I committed to 400, and I think in 420 blog articles for 2023.
Yeah.
Which is about 40 a month, which is more than double what we did last year. And I just know what that does for SEO, and I know what that does for growth in the different markets. So that's really the first quarter for me. That was definitely priority number one, is getting that, getting that in place and putting in that work, because then it helps everything. It helps the lead gen, it helps the amount of conversions, it helps us have more people to talk to, it helps, grow traffic. And we, looking at Easy Home Search from 2021 January to 2022, and then really the big gain was 2022 January to 2023. I mean, our organic traffic is up about 400% from January of last year. In January, last month, as of today or yesterday, we had over 200,000 organic visits.
Wow.
Which is staggering compared to, last year of January, we had 40,000. So, I mean, that's really a big priority for mine. And, with growing it, Easy Home Search too, like going into, we're developing a full custom site now. There's a lot of things that I think I texted you, I joked, but I feel like I'm in a foxhole. I was just doing a lot of stuff by myself with my head down, getting it done. But, part of it, like we're working on building a team out of the States for the app when we're ready to do the full custom app. And we're looking at teams in Argentina, we're looking at teams in India, to help us with that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really, that's kind of the priority of getting, May 1st is the date of the new site, so it's really getting to that spot, and it's going to open the door to a lot of different things for us for sure.
Yeah. And I think as a business person, whether you're a single agent, team lead, broker owner, whatever it is, you always have to think in that way. Like, what's the tiny hinge right now? What's the one thing in my business that I need to impact or fix that's going to swing the big door and create momentum everywhere else? And I think you do a really good job of that. I'll say that as an employee and friend, like you do a really good job of always focusing on that one small thing that's going to create all the momentum. So
yeah, and and that's sitting here talking about it, I'm like, what other stuff am I leaving out? But we just, John and I just launched with Cheplack Digital and Sierra. I have a call with them this afternoon. We just launched a website template which was built on conversion. I worked with Sierra on it for the last couple of months, and we came up with a design. It's actually launching this week in Toronto, but that's going to be something where it's not market exclusive. So if you're a team or a broker or an individual agent that wants to grow a team, I mean, it's going to be an option for them that's an IDX only website, meaning you have to connect it to a CRM, and in this situation, it's built to connect with Follow Up Boss. So that's something we're super excited about launching. We're going to have a call on next week talking about it, but we already got like just kind of a soft launch to people we know. We got about 20 people signed up for it.
Mhm.
So that'll be exciting because it helps a lot of things as well. Like with Easy Home Search, all of a sudden we have, partners that are within the Cheplack Digital on the template side when Easy Home Search is in the markets there, and we could deliver them leads.
Yeah. So all that is going on in the background. And
Yeah.
then, of course, you're headed to Toronto this weekend. And
Yep.
then we have here in Myrtle Beach, we have the Connection Summit coming up the 23rd of this month. That's coming up fast, man.
Yeah, it is. I just looked at the website yesterday and it said 22 days away. I'm like, what the hell did I get myself in? Now I'm super excited, but it's just one of those things like, it's the first one I've ever done. And I'm like texting John, I'm like, man, when do people start signing up? And it's
Yeah.
just crazy. Over the last week, I'm starting to see more. And then I have some people coming from out of town that are bringing 10 or 12 agents with them that haven't signed up yet, but they're coming in and they committed to, we're actually starting to see, it's going to be interesting. And that's the one thing I struggle with, like, is as you grow in your business, it seems like the support locally shrinks.
Yeah.
It's just it's something that, like, you have all the support when you originally launch a business, but when you become more and more successful, it seems like your circle of support definitely shrinks. So the reason I say that is I think I'm going to have more people coming from out of town to this event
Yeah.
than we have show up locally, which is, it's a little bit sad, that some people can't get outside of their own ego and say, hey, I'm going to, go to this event because it's going to help me. And instead they're like, hey, it might support. So I don't care if you support me or not,
Right.
really come support yourself, show up and, educate yourself and learn. That's the whole reason I brought it here. I didn't bring it here for me.
Right.
I brought it here for, our agents at Palms Realty. I also brought it here for, so many other people in this market, in this business that could really do well from coming to it and listening to people speak that are not in your own little fishing pond.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm excited about, is bringing them in town. And, and had a coaching call with somebody yesterday. They're in Phoenix and they bought 6 tickets.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty interesting that the amount of people, I spoke to somebody last night in New York is coming. So there's going to be a lot of people coming from a lot of different markets. And, that's a good thing to see because a lot of them have never been to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. And I think more so, I enjoy events like that. I call them like melting pot events because you're not just learning from all the great speakers. It's the cup of coffee in the corner of the room during a breakout or break session where you meet the random person from Phoenix and you
Oh,
start
yeah.
talking about their business and what's going well for them and what's happening in the Phoenix market and stuff like that. That's where you learn the most at stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's cool too. Like Follow Up Boss is coming. Dan, CEO of Follow Up Boss, texted me and said he's probably coming in. So
Oh,
he's
cool.
coming in. The CEO of Follow Up Boss is coming in. Sam, he's actually in North Carolina.
Dan's been on our show.
Yeah, he was on our show. So
Yeah.
he's coming in. A couple other companies. Justin from Sear Rocket's coming in with Rocket Leads. They're one of the sponsors. He's coming in and speaking with his team.
That's the he owns a VA company.
Yeah, VA company.
Company.
Yep.
He's got a great
Yeah,
story as well.
we have 4 of we use 4 of the VAs that they've connected us to.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, he's actually from Phoenix. He's coming in. We're actually switching to his software. It's called Open to Close. And it's a transaction software that, works within Follow Up Boss, which is great for us because that's where we live. So we're, canceling one and switching to that. So there's going to be a lot of people, not only in the real estate world, some lenders, a lender friend of mine, he's coming in from Colorado. He's bringing part of his team from Florida. So it'll be a good event to, meet some new people. And it's so important in this business or any business to get outside of where you live.
Yes.
And, that's something that I told Josh and Nick early on before we opened Palms. I was like, you guys really need to go to Tahoe. And this was 2 years ago, to see what is possible, because sometimes you get stuck in your own market and you see what other companies have done and the numbers I told them we could do. They had to get out of our market and see what's possible. And And that's really a lot of the speakers that are coming in are operators. That's the big
Yeah.
thing. They're not sitting up there spewing stuff out based on theory. They actually
They're in the
do it
trench.
in the trenches.
Yeah.
Exactly. Every day. Angie Cole, she was an agent and now she runs a big company in Raleigh. Kelly in Jacksonville, same thing. She was an individual agent and now she runs a team and she has her own brokerage. Super successful people in business. Anit, Matt Smith. I mean, there's a lot of people coming in. Super excited about Sammy Knight coming in as well. And then obviously John and Bill, so it's going to be a great event.
It's definitely a high powered day. Where
it's a long day.
It's a long day, but to me, I like to get it done in one day.
Yeah, it won't feel like it
No.
at all. It's just, when we're sitting there putting together getting this in there. We have the conversion panel, which is going to be fun. You're going to be on there with the other Travis. And it's great. Lee Adkins is actually coming in. I called him. He lives in Atlanta. He was actually the host for the panel that I was on with Travis at FubCon. So he has a company. They do a lot of stuff within Follow Up Boss. He's coming in town.
Good.
So it's going to be a good event. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be the first one of hopefully many.
So that goes back to you asked me if I wanted to go to Toronto. That seems like a great opportunity, but I'm saving my learning for this month for February 23rd.
Oh, you got to host it.
Well, yeah, but I'm hosting. I'm gonna be learning. I'm taking notes on the side too. I mean, my thing is I'm gonna leave there with 3
highly caffeinated.
Yeah.
No, are you gonna be for the event?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a 4 cup of coffee day right there.
You got to keep up with pipes.
Yeah. Well, no. Pipes, I'm pretty high energy most of the time. But Pipes, if I was standing next to him, I feel like I would look like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. That man is so high energy.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, John's going to open up so you and I are going to start today, just quick intro, and then John's going to start, and then John's going to end. So, that's the way I wanted it to be. I mean, John's been a huge impact in my life over the last 5 years. And it's, anybody that listens to him speak and, he speaks from the heart and he speaks truth and he speaks, what he's done. I mean, it's not based on theory. I mean, he's inside behind the curtain with so many different successful companies across the country, North America, that he is definitely somebody that you want to listen to.
John, I super love that we coach with him as a company for 2 reasons. Number one, he's highly analytical. He analyzes what's happening in the market and he's talking to highly successful people all the time and pulling the nooks and the crannies of what's going well. And then the tactical part of it is how to apply it.
Yeah.
And that's what John does a great job of. And of course he has his own experience of being a broker owner and the recruiting piece and all of that. But yeah, it's the analytical and just the tactical ways of how to use it. John just does an amazing job of delivering that.
Yeah. I mean, he's super, super, super good listener too. If you ever pay attention, he listens a lot more than he talks.
Yeah.
Really when you're in the coaching calls, because that's what he does. I mean, he helps you navigate through those situations and been super helpful for us. And even before Palms was helpful with me on many different levels.
He does the thing. I've had some good coaches in my life. I've been very blessed that way. But he does the thing I think all good coaches, you got to look for this in a coach, is he tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And he tells it to you in a way where it's not sugar-coated, but it also doesn't beat you up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's yeah, he's right. I need to fix X, Y, Z, and you have to find that in a coach. It's so crucial.
Yeah. And, a good coach knows how hard they could push as well on the different individual. You know what I mean? Some people will break and some people are fine.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's fine to punch me in the face. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, a lot's happening here. Enjoy your travels, Preston. Stay safe. Most of all, stay warm.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have packed a pair of mittens because regular gloves is not going to cut it.
Yes, I have mittens. I didn't even break out in Park City because it wasn't this cold. But I bought some gloves and I bought some mittens for skiing. So I'm going to look funny, but I don't care.
Well, it's not. Everybody around there, because regular gloves, because your fingers are separated, will not keep your hands
So
warm.
I have some
enough.
I have some mittens and
good.
They're bright yellow.
Yeah, we don't need you getting frostbite up there in Toronto.
No, I will not be outside that often, unfortunately.
All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. Hopefully we'll see you at Connection Summit, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.